Yeah, the real shop talk. Just come and take a listen. Some grown men with unbiased and honest opinions, and with no agendas, so you just gotta check it. Talking love and life from a male perspective. We keep it authentic, real, no filter. Leave a comment, be part of the show. We here to give you 5 gentlemen's views about manhood, no doubt. This the show you've been needing, yeah, it's the real shop talk. Let's go.
Good evening, everyone. It's Monday night. It's 8 p.m. on the East Coast, 7 p.m. Central Time. So you know what that means. It's time for Real Shop Talk. And I'm one of your hosts, Tony Massey, probably the host with the leastest as it relates to tonight. I'm really excited about tonight. Tonight is going to be bananas because we're going to talk about something I think that is prevalent in our culture, and it has been, I would even say, I'm going to say around the 80s, late 70s, 80s, it really started to take hold in our culture. And we want to talk about what it is and the effects of it. But before we do that, I wanted to go ahead and allow all of the 5 men of Shop Talk, Real Shop Talk, to introduce themselves. Now, before I pass the mic, I want to prepare you for the fact that this show was way too big for us to just handle this on our own. And I feel like we can handle things. We are 5 grown men. We can handle things, but we have some very special guests that are going to be joining us this evening, and I'll bring them in here in a second once everyone introduces themselves, because this conversation is so complex and has so many layers. We didn't want to just touch on this from our perspective, but we want to bring other perspectives in the room tonight. So if you're watching, thank you. Make sure you comment because, of course, as you know, we love the comments, and you are just as much a part of the show as we are. And if you're watching, that means you're enjoying this, and somebody you know probably is enjoying it too. So go ahead and hit that share button and take the time right now to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss one episode of the Real Shop Talk. All right, let me pass the mic.
He gonna get it right this time. There it
is. This way to my brother Derek Jones. Go ahead, tell him who you are, and let's go around the circle.
All right, everybody. My name is Derek Jones. I'm a certified life and relationship coach, host of the Relationship Gumbo podcast and Relationship Gumbo life coaching. And tonight it's gonna be a deep show. I can feel it already. I do want to say this. I know some of the topics that we discover may trigger some people, so trigger warning. And if it's too much for you, do what you need to do to get yourself together, because I know this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people. So I'm gonna pass the mic over to Mr. Singletary. I'm not even going. It's one of these. Yeah, that I don't know. He's over there. One of them things.
There you go. It's opposite of whatever you feel like, right? Hey, no, like they said, man, we about to get into something deep, man. But we really want to get your input, so we are excited about that. Excited about tackling the topic. So we want to do it in a responsible and a respectful way. Oh, by the way, I'm John Singletary, host of the Help Myself podcast. I'm the Air Force vet here. And my son back there, that's my co-pilot back there getting excited. So I had him turn the iPad off because he was ridiculous today. So, so I think I can handle this now. I'm passing it down. There you go.
What's up, guys? What's up? I'm Gunter Man from Soapbox Stand Up and Speak. I am a relationship life coach. I am the host of the Gunter Man Show every Thursday night at 7:30 on Instagram Live. Guys, of course, you are in for a real treat tonight. But like the guy said, it could be a little sticky out there. So we want you to kind of sit back and know that all us guys are coming from a place of love. And sometimes we might have to get so real with our information that it might strike a chord. It might hit some memories, some situations that didn't bring you a great sense of peace. But journey with us anyway, because remember, ignoring a situation doesn't handle the situation. Taking on a situation handles the situation, gets you to the place of healing, because that's what we're here. We're building communities. No matter what you've been through, no matter what we have done, no matter what we've been through, we're here as a whole, as a unit. believing to move forward and see better days ahead through this community that we have built. So I pass it on to T. Watts. Yes, T. Watts in the building.
We'll get that all straightened out one day. We'll point in the right direction. We appreciate everybody that logged in, and as everybody said, this is going to be a heavy one. Sit back, relax. You are in a safe space. I want to let you know you're in a safe space. So however you feel about this topic, if it triggers something, you are in a safe space. You have relationship coaches, life coaches. I'm an NLP practitioner. You have people that you can reach out and talk to. And if it goes deeper than that, we have people that we know who are clinicians in this field that can really help you out. So if you want to hit us behind the scenes and say, hey, that triggered something, it brought up something in my past, I really need to sit down and talk to somebody, please reach out to us and we will make sure that gets happening. So I'm Tony Watts. I'm the host of Triumphant TV. We bring all things excellence there. And let's jump into the conversation. Let's get it popping.
Absolutely, Mr. Watts. So tonight we're talking about rape culture. We're talking about rape culture and how it affects our community. And again, this topic is way too big for just the five of us to tackle. So we have some very special guests in the building. I'm so excited about having these guests in the building. I'm going to bring them in one by one. She is the host of Dope Discussions with Erica. And let me tell you something. These discussions are dope. They really are. She does her thing. So I'm going to bring her in so she can introduce herself and tell us who she is and what she does before we start the conversation.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Erica Warren. I am the co-host of the Dope Discussions with Erica podcast. I am also a certified life coach, assisting women in the areas of self-love, life purpose, breakup recovery, and dating. And I am also author of women's inspirational books. So I am excited to be here. I love watching these guys every Monday. And so being on the platform with them is exciting for me.
Awesome. I get a little misty eyed. I appreciate that. Next is a international best-selling author. She's also a motivational speaker. I started following her after I was introduced to her, and definitely this is someone who can bring you into a very light space, a space of light. Her name is Queen Cole. I'm gonna bring her up so she can introduce herself as well.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for having me here to be able to talk about this. It's a much needed conversation. So thank you for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And last but certainly not least, he is the co-host of Dope Discussions with Erica. And he also is the co-host of the Down 5 podcast, which is a very interesting podcast. I had a chance to check that out. My man, 100 gram, Mr. Gator Live. Gator, tell him who you are, what you're about, bro.
Now joining Tony Massey on the pink team. What's going on, everybody? It's me, Gator Live. I am co-host of the Down 5 podcast, co-host of the Dope Discussions podcast, and I am happy to be here. I'm just me, your average, ordinary guy who just tends to be very opinionated on a lot of interesting topics. So I'm glad to be here. I'm a big fan, and I'm ready for the conversation.
Let's get into it. Now, first and foremost, Gator, this is Salmon. I'm just going to...
Hey, technically, this is Barry, but
let's get into it. Rape culture. Now, when we came up with this topic, my biggest concern was the use of the word rape because it can be very triggering. And then, of course, in researching the topic, really defining what is rape culture and what does it mean before we even get into how it affects our community. So let's start there. And I'm just going to throw this out there. This is going to be a free for all. I really want to hear from our guests, but fellas, please don't hesitate to give your opinion as well. Let's define rape culture before we go any further. Anybody that wants to hop in, go for it.
I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into the deep end on this one. This is a loaded question. But when I heard the topic, I'm like, rape culture. like you said earlier, this goes back to the 70s and 80s, how men get to do things against women, violence against women, and it's accepted. So when I hear rape culture, rape, all that, I hear that it has been accepted and there's some kind of like victim shaming up in it too. So that's what I think about. I think about how the finger's always pointing. What were you wearing? Where were you at this time of night? So that's what I hear. I hear those things, the blaming of the victim, and that it's okay for society to point the finger at the victim instead of pointing the finger at the person committing the assault.
Yeah, I also agree. I feel like it's a mindset and a system set up to divert the blame from the aggressor and from the perpetrator, and kind of, sweep it under the rug or kind of rationalize it to, men will be men, boys will be boys. And what was she doing in that situation for that to happen to her? And it stems from, for me, I remember as a little girl growing up, not feeling comfortable and open enough to even go to my mom or my grandmother and tell them when I felt uncomfortable in situations with men, because I felt like I was going to be the one to be blamed, because little girls often we're coached so fervently that don't dress this way, don't find yourself in these situations, don't go here and don't go there. So when something does happen, you really internalize it as if you've done something wrong.
Yeah, I agree with both of the ladies here. I mean, when you look back to the 80s and the 90s, I think it had a lot to do with what you were wearing and, like Eric was saying, position that you put yourself in. More to do with the fact that, it was allowed almost. And it was almost glorified in the music that was going on during the time, in speech. It really cast like a negative light on women embracing their femininity. And that just because a woman embraced their femininity, it became okay to push yourselves on them, or it became okay for men to objectify and treat women cruelly. When I think of rape culture, that's what I think of. Not necessarily even just the act of rape, but the blind eye that was turned to it because, it was almost justified in the way that a woman would carry herself.
When I think about rape culture, what comes to mind is events like Freaknik, Virginia Beach, Greek events, college parties. I grew up in the entertainment world. Rape culture was a part of our world. That seeing women as objects more so than a person, where the concept of getting drunk, whatever the case may be, and finding yourself, can I say it, running a train on somebody. I'm going in. This is the lifestyle. I'm talking from Greek event to Greek event. And that's the thing that really hit home, because I can remember those times, even though in your mind, that it's wrong. Like, it's clearly wrong. But it's a part of the environment. It's part of the rhythm of the time. We call it free up. Free up for those who are the island people. Free up, you kind of just go with the flow. Well, how about me going to Trinidad, carnival time? These are environments that you can define as rape culture. But understand that rape simply doesn't just happen to the woman. It also happens to the man. And there's actually no word for it in some languages. That abuse to the woman is defined how a rape. There's a word for it, like say in the Spanish culture, Rape for a man that happens, there's no word for it. There's no word for it. It doesn't exist. It can't be. A man can't be raped, but a man can be raped. Absolutely. So these are the things, because I come from the entertainment side of it. So all I think is events, all the events going to. Anyone?
So just Tony Watts, you're next, bro. Just a little housekeeping here. We have so many people speak, on the show right now. Sometimes we're getting some feedback. So if you're not speaking, please go ahead and mute your mic. That way we don't have that feedback. But other than that, everyone, please keep going. Tony, go ahead, bro.
All right, so I want to let's just dive into it. So 2 very prominent rapes happened to 2 prominent we would call alpha male figures in the 90s, Tupac and Mike Tyson, right? Rape culture is how we define why was the women there. We didn't define what happened. We defined why were you there. Why you was mad that Mike didn't walk you downstairs after he did what he did. After you gave him what you gave him, why he didn't walk you downstairs. So now you're saying he did such and such and such. The young lady that went down on Tupac in the club, and then Tupac takes her home and things escalate. We didn't question whether the rape happened. We questioned why was she there and why did she do certain things to put herself in that position. That's rape culture, and we have to understand it goes way deeper than that and further back. It's also in our TV ads, and like Rick says, it's in our music. If you remember shows from, let's say, mid 60s to early 80s, it was sexy for the international spy to smack a woman up before he had sex with her, to grab her and wrestle with her, and then she succumbs, ooh, and she no. That gave off a certain vibe to people that this is the way you woo a woman. This is the way you conquer a woman. All of that is rape culture. And that's the things that we need to identify with it. And we're going to address on the show tonight is that we're hoping that the young men that are listening, that they will understand no means no. In every context, you could be entering her. It could be yes until you enter her. And she could say, as you're in for the second pump, no. You have to come out because she said no, and that's what this conversation is about. Just real quick before I pass it on to another one of my brothers. When we came up with this topic, me and Rick was on the phone, and I had my 17-year-old daughter in the car with me. She's 18 now, just birthday a couple of days ago. But she was like giving her input, and she said something to me that was very interesting, and I had to challenge her on it, and I came out to be wrong. As little as this is going to sound to you, but pay attention. She said, sometimes rape culture is seen when a young man continues to talk to a girl after she said no. He keeps asking her to go out, go out, go out. I've already told you no. So we got to be really aware of those little nuances as well as when we have this conversation. Thanks, guys.
I'm gonna jump in real quick because I know tonight it's already, y'all can already feel it now, right? I think this is I remember growing up, during the Eazy-E era, in the NWA and the Freakniks and the Black College Reunions, and I remember even then, just being in those environments with so many people, even feeling uncomfortable then with all the stuff that we saw, but not uncomfortable enough, right? And that in itself, like we always talk about on this show about how men are socialized and the things that are supposed to be normal in the conquest of the woman, and then you have women who grow up in this same culture, and a lot of women have given up fighting to the point where it's almost like, well, they're going to do it anyway, so I might as well just go ahead and let them slap my butt while I'm walking down the street because I don't want nobody to hurt me, or do whatever. And it becomes, it almost has the effect to where, well, she didn't tell me no, so let me keep going. But you just invaded her space. You touched her body. She didn't invite you. And it happens so often. And I think we never really saw in mass men and or women really coming forward and saying, what the hell? Like it was so, in that time, and even now, but in that time when we really saw that spike, it was like, everybody just was like, you know, even with the music, he ain't talking about me. And I'm like, okay, well, and a lot of guys will see that as an invitation. Oh, you dancing to that song? Okay. So it's weird because I remember seeing a lot of this stuff in mass. You know, you go to those big events and it's like, and a lot of times you could see the discomfort on these women's faces, and they had to suck it up. So I know this is going to go a lot of different places, but I'm recalling those moments. And even as men, let's say I don't like it. It's 200 dudes. So you like, I'm not participating, but in a woman who has to walk through a crowd of 200 men, what can you do? And that's the part that sucks. So I'm gonna land there, and we can, you know, do what we need to do.
I remember being down at Virginia Beach, and exact scenario that Derek just described down at Virginia Beach. I guess if you guys are of that particular age, you heard about the Virginia Beach where they threw things out the hotel room. Well, all right, I'll tell you, my dancing on the boardwalk initiated that whole crowd coming together. And, you know, as you walk along the boardwalk, people will have their boom boxes, and the rhythm, you stop and you party, you dance. Well, I was just traveling down. Back then, guys, I was Rick with a high top fade, big time dancer. So a guy had music, so I stopped in that section and I started dancing. Crowd started building. And exactly what Derek said. Women started walking through the crowd, this massive crowd. Guys started ripping off their bikini tops. Next thing you know, toasters being thrown out the window of the hotel, and it just police, everything just started. And that's when the next day the army was there with the guns. All started from me dancing in this one section on the boardwalk in Virginia Beach. And it got national news recognition from that. So yeah, that mindset of women now are property, are easy to take because you're in this setting. You see all of us men, we could touch what we want to touch. Now, mind you, I didn't do the touching. I wasn't a part of the touching. I was a dancer. You know me. I was a dancer. That was my zone. Tony Watts, no, that was my zone. I go to party, talk to no one, but I'm dancing. I'm ripping up a spot and I'm walking out. So yeah, to get to that mindset where it's not even affecting you, but you see it and you know it's wrong, but you're doing nothing about it. You know, and you see a situation like that and you'll still think about that night, hanging together, running around, going to a concert, and doing what in the bathroom, or doing what just after just seeing that horrific thing. You're saying that's wrong, but look what you just did a couple hours later. So how much did it really impact you? I'm gonna lay it right there.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. Tony, your daughter made an excellent point. And what you're saying about the crowds, it is a scary thing. But when you're one-on-one, when I'm at the gas station and there are cat calls, you know, guys are just pumping their gas and they want to pump my gas. And, you know, Queen, I want you to pump my gas, but I want you to pay for my gas too. But that ain't the point. The point is the cat calling. So if I have to go in, the card reader's not working. I'm thinking like, okay, so somebody approaches me, and this has happened. I've had to put different gas stations in my neighborhood on pause because I'm like, okay, I don't need to go over there because it's too much. So I had to say, lie. I have a man. I was single. I was just new to the city, but I'm like, no, I have a man. He wouldn't like that. Oh, well, I have somebody too. We can all be friends. And I'm like, Okay. So those are the things that when I think about rape culture, those kind of things, those are scary when you're one-on-one with somebody. And this is, I'm looking a hot mess. I didn't work out. I got a rag on my head and you still coming at me, and I try to gently do it. But then I don't know if you've all seen in the last couple of weeks, there was a girl who declined the guy's invitation, and then he came to her table in the restaurant with the gun. So it's like, what do we do? And one of my solutions is, I have a son. He's 22 years old. I start with him. I start with his friends, so that way they know that these things aren't acceptable, and for them to hear no, because nobody likes no. The rejection level, we all get that. And there's a way to say it. You don't have to be like, don't talk to me. You don't have to do all that. But even when you do it in a respectful way, I'm one of these people that it has continued and it can make you afraid. So it's like, where do we start at? Starting with raising our children, raising our boys to say, hey, you got to get used to a woman telling you no. And it's a complete sentence. I don't have to say because I got a man or because I'm seeing somebody. It shouldn't be that. It should just be no, and that's it.
And I think it's sad that we've gotten to a point where a woman has to strategically say no. That part is just so, it's so bothersome to me, because no should be enough. And I've talked about this before, how, you know, I think it starts with men. You know, we want to monitor how women dress and how women act and all this other thing, as if that somehow will, you know, change the minds of men. But here's the reality. You look at a country like India that women dress very modestly there, just because of the culture, but they still, you know, per capita have more incidents of rape than anywhere else, because there is a pervasive rape culture there. And to me, the conversation is really not about how women act or even how men act. It's this idea that women are not allowed to own their own bodies. They're not allowed to have decisions that are definitive. And as a married man, and I'll tell a quick story and then I'll pass the mic. The other day, my wife and I were running errands separately. And I have this rule, and I say rule, I have this stance, I guess would be a better word. I don't like her pumping her own gas by herself. And the reason I don't is because I know, especially here in Atlanta, I know how dangerous gas stations can be. And I'm not even talking about men approaching her. I'm talking about people breaking into cars while you're pumping your gas, while you're paying for your whatever. So I have this thing where I try my best to make sure that she always has gas in her car, so she never has to stop, because I feel like that's an unnecessary place of vulnerability that I don't think that she needs to be, you know, in, when I could easily remedy that by making sure she always has gas in her car. Well, for whatever reason, there wasn't enough gas in her car for her to do whatever she needed to do. And I just happened to be driving by while she was at the gas station, and I saw our car, which made me turn my head. What I saw was my wife sitting in the car on her phone to her head, and, you know, she's just chilling, right? The gas is, you know, she's got the gas on the automatic little thing, and she's just chilling. And this is not to, you know, discredit my wife or anything like that. My wife has a very a loving soul. She's and I'm not saying that she's naive, because she's not. She's very savvy, but she also, you know, I think being in combat has made me more extreme than I need to be, and more overprotective than I need to be. But the first thing I feared was someone approaching her. So right in the middle of the road, I hit a Yui, and I was upset. And I had to apologize for my tone, because I was so upset, because I felt like, you know, you need to be more aware of your surroundings. Your situational awareness is so low, and blah, 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 blah. And what I had to apologize for is, she's pumping gas. my wife should not be head on a swivel doing something as simple as, because I'm not. And this is what I think, when we talk about rape culture, this is the part where men who say that there's no such thing, or this is just demonizing men. I want you to think about, when is the last time as a man you felt a sense of fear doing routine things like pumping gas, things like going to the grocery store, things like, loading groceries into the grocery store, walking down the street, going for a run, whatever. But we have a culture that suggests that if a woman is not being, chaste in her presentation, then she's asking for it. And that part bothers me, not just because of how horrific it is, but what does that say about us as men? What does it say about, men? Do we lack the ability to just see a woman as a woman and not sexualize her? Or are we just doomed to only view women in one light? And that's the part that really it bothers me so much. So I want to ask the question, as it relates to rape culture, what would you say is the one or two things that are continuing the culture, the rape culture in our communities?
Let me jump in. Man, you first off, you hit the nail on the head. When they look at rape from a criminal standpoint, it's not a crime of passion, it's a crime of power. And the rape culture really has its roots, in my opinion, from the fact that in majority of cases, you have men that are not willing to accept the autonomy and the personhood of a woman. Like they see them as an object. Like, we have a car, so that car exists to drive me where I want to go. I don't consider, how did the car feel about it? Does it prefer 87 over 93? No, that's my car. I do what I want to do with my car. Or if I have a pair of jeans, I wear them how I want to wear them when I want to wear them. And men, for the most part, get into this idea that they're owed something or they deserve something from a woman simply because she exists. And it's not being able to say, this is a woman that, and so when we use that whole, oh, well, you shouldn't wear that, that's a straw man argument, because at the end of the day, it's not even about what she's wearing. It's about you feeling like you got the power to do whatever you want to do. And that's where when you think about it, obviously there was a time when in many, if not most cultures, women were property, And so coming into this new age where we're finally getting it right, we're less wrong than we were back then. And we're saying that, women deserve to have these rights, which who are we to say what they should have been had rights, but I digress. But you still have, that culture, guys that say, oh man, if she do this, and that, she wanted, it's yours, this, that, and the other. And that conversation needs to pivot away from you're owed something from a woman to, if I'm talking to my son, hey, you need to be this kind of person. And if a woman wants to entertain you in any kind of way, it's the quality of your character and who you are. It's not you got a right to a woman because you're a man, because that's not true. People are people and they have the right. And what I challenge a lot of guys, think about how you would feel if you were violated the same way that you feel it's okay to violate a woman. And they do a lot of comedy skits, but it's very, while it's funny, it's there's a lot of revelation to it, like calling me like, hey, you with the gray sweatpants on, and you laugh about it. But the thing about it is that's how we treat women and we think it's okay. But then when you turn it around, we feel some kind of way about it. So, changing that culture is women are not objects, and you don't have a right to a whole nother person. That's madness. So if that'd be a good start to kill that madness.
I want to add that I think rape is one of the hardest crimes to prove because it's one person's word against the other. And usually most rapes are somebody that you know, that you're acquainted with, that you've trusted in the past. And so when that incidents happen, it's your word against theirs. Their perception of what happened is different from what your perception is. And then you have a group of people who are pressuring you that you're going to ruin this person's life, you know, by making this claim against them. And then there's a unspoken and a spoken rule between Black women that I don't want to contribute to putting yet another Black man in jail because of, you know, my accusation. So I will take one for the culture in order not to play into, you know, putting another Black man in jail. And I think that happens so much. That's why so many women just stay silent, because they understand the stigma that's going to come along with it, the criticism, the eyes on them, and then the backlash, you know, if they go forward with it and prosecute it and send this man to jail.
Yeah, I would like to take it a little bit further with what John said. I know it's good to flip it up and say, okay, guys with the gray sweatpants, because we say that we want to see something, show me something. Okay. But I think we need to take it further. What if that's your mother? Now we get personal with it. So your mother's getting out the car. My son would not like me getting out the car and somebody catcalling me to the point where I'm uncomfortable. Now let's go further. Okay, not your mother. You don't have a relationship with your mother. You don't care. You don't want to hear that. Your grandmama, the one who raised you. Let's go further. So I think when we personalize instead of trying to separate ourselves from that, oh, I don't know nobody. It's almost like the COVID thing. At first, I was like, this is the flu. But then when it started hitting people close to me, I need a mask. I'm trying to figure out what shot I want to get. So what I'm saying is let's rip that part out and bring us closer to the situation instead of being all back. It don't have nothing to do with me. I don't got nothing to do with it, because we don't want to get involved in different things. Just like if you see a domestic violence situation, sometimes we'll see it, but we don't react to it because we don't want to get involved. That culture is part of the rape culture as well, where we just don't say nothing. We don't act. That's their business. I don't want to get into it. There's always a way to analyze the situation to be able to diffuse it. So I think we need to really get ourselves proximate to the situation, opposed to, you know, I don't got nothing, I don't know nobody, because it could be your mama, your grandmama, your sister, your auntie, or your niece, nephew these days. We can't forget about the guys either, because that's even harder, which is probably a whole nother conversation to deal with a sexual assault on a man. So I think we need to become closer to the situation.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. I saw you move, Tony. Give me like literally 30 seconds. So just to talk about what Queen just said, right? Here's the weird thing, right? And I'm sure the guys will agree. In general, there's this thing that we do where we separate our family from the rest of the world. And it's like a big blind spot, right? So when you say, what if that's your mama? It don't even register. Like, it doesn't register at all. What if it was your daughter? It don't register at all, because we are so conditioned to look at the rest of the world, women especially, as prey, as something to conquer. So when you say your mom, I don't see my mom as prey. So it's the craziest, but that's how it is. And so, and what I had said earlier this week on another show, I was like, we have to start showing our sons and or daughters, we have to teach them to see each other differently than how it's been conditioned in the past, or it will always keep going. If I always see every woman I see as this thing, and my son does the same thing, it's never going to go away. So I'm gonna land there.
We have a humanitarian problem. That's the problem. we have a humanitarian problem. If I see you as a human being, I'm not going to treat you as less than. So that's where we have to start from. And it's one of the reasons why I did the show on Triumphant TV, protecting Black women. And I came from it from the standpoint of the trauma we put women through before they even 12, 13, 14 years old, of how we sexualize them early. So we have to get to a place, like everyone's already said, is that we have to raise our children, not only the boys, but the girls, that your space is your space. You have to speak up. We have to have these conversations about sexuality, about sex, about being violated, what that looks like, and give you the agency to speak up for yourself, to go, hey, you don't make me feel comfortable. Hey, baby, why you never say hi to Aunt Julie? Because she doesn't make me feel comfortable. We need to get into that space. So when the kids go out in the street and somebody makes them feel uncomfortable, they can express themselves the same way. This is where this training has to come into. Because a lot of women sometimes, right, have this ability or this, I'm gonna say trauma, for the lack of a better term, of saying all men are this, that, and the other because of what men have done to them in the past, right? So all men are gonna do this to me, all men are gonna do that to me. So it's a way that you move around society, like the women just said. I couldn't fathom, I can't go to a gas station and just pump my gas because somebody's going to try to talk to me. We had an incident here in New York about 6 months ago now, if that long. Young lady walks into a liquor store, 3 guys are in the liquor store. They beat her up senselessly because she didn't allow them to buy her something to drink. Do you understand how asinine that is? How crazy that is? What is your mentality if you want to assault a woman because she told you no? Think about that. What is your mentality if you want to assault somebody because they told you no? And I'm not even talking about, we haven't even gotten into the actual act of raping someone. We're talking about the act of interacting with people on the street. I'm guilty of it. I've in the club, Rick could tell you, snatch you by the arm, come here, let me talk. What's good? So when I began to look at all of these aspects of things that I did in my youth, I started going, whoa, like there was a lot of things that I contributed to, of the mindset of women being scared of Black men. And this is the reason why we're having this conversation, because Black men and Black women have to come to the table, right? And forgive each other for the past. First, we have to recognize what we've done, confess it, and then move forward. We have to begin to protect each other. We have to begin to protect Black women. And back in the day, Rick, you brought so many memories back in all these shows we went to. And I remember once we was in Manhattan, and I don't know if it was a Freaknik in Manhattan. It was something huge in Manhattan, where all of the Qs and all of those people, they were there. And a dude got thrown in the water at the Intrepid because he was trying to protect his girl from a bunch of Qs. They threw him in the water. Like they threw him in the ocean. That
was the party on the Intrepid for Kid and Play.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, why? I'm like, why would you do that? And after they did that, they were like beating their chest like they did something courageous. I'm like, it's 80-80, y'all, and one of him. Where's the fairness?
Here it is. You know what it is? It's partially the bullying. The one who was one time bullied now becoming the bully. Because how? Now I want you to, I'm going to take you there. How, coming from a place of slavery, could you ever see one of yours as a property? What has so culturally seared your thinking, that coming from a place of being property, that you're perfectly comfortable, that I am perfectly comfortable with a woman being seen as property? How? How do you get to that place? And how do you correct that? Because the same thing when you talk about when it comes to slavery, think about how many Black men slaves were killed by white women who didn't have the power. The bullying person took it out on people that they could bully. Think about slavery. You know how many Black men slaves were killed by white women? The charts is, remember they had that whole museum, that 4,000 museum. Most of them, if you read those placards, is I looked at a white woman accused me of this. But it'll blow your mind. So you go from a place of years and years and years of being treated as property, you figure when you're set free that you can never do that. But we know that's not true. You adapt to your culture. You imitate that which you see. You imitate. Matter of fact, not only do you imitate, you long for what you see the other races doing. Come on, they've been doing it since the days of Caligula. Can I go there? The Greeks? What? Everyone was fair game in those days, if you know what I mean. So how do you go? You figure that as a community that we should be the ones putting a stop to it. We were property. How are you going to see your own women, your own queens, that in that same light as property? But culture is powerful. Culture is powerful. Just like stuff at home. The stuff you see at home, you go out and you know that it ain't right, but you're going to find yourself doing kind of the same stuff you did. The negative stuff that took place in your home is going to be repeated in public somewhere along the line or privately. You adapt those type of mindsets. I don't get along with my father. Guess who I'm going to be like when I get older? Just like my father. I don't get it, but I was a part of it. I was a part of all the madness. All of it. How do you change it now? What do we do to change? As Queen Cole says, you teach the younger generation. And that's boys and girls to speak up about the things that are not comfortable. Because let me do something to my grandson that he's not comfortable with. He will tell me straightforward, hey, Peepa, I don't like the way that is. I don't like that. Why did you speak to me that way? It starts with teaching them that speak your mind, and then you can shape it when it's okay and when it's not okay as far as adults and when it's family members and stuff. But if you're not around the kid enough, no, speak your mind. Because if you're not around, I should be able to say what I don't. If you're around like how my mommy's around, then I can learn not to say that to you because you're around enough for me not to say it to you. But if you're just coming in every now and then, no, I'm going to say what doesn't make me feel comfortable. So the bullies being the bullies and then teaching your generations, you just have to, because it's too big of a giant for you to think you could take it on and say, okay, let's start a movement. Everyone should not do this. Nah, that ain't working. That ain't working. It's got to be something bigger. It has to be something greater. And the strongest impact is in your home. And as Tony wants to say over and over again, in your community. What do you think, Gator? What do you think, Gator?
I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, that's the big thing. We, as a community, a lot of times overlook a lot of those when we see atrocities happening. I will call them atrocities because anytime that you're taking the rights from a young woman, that's an atrocity. Well, a lot of times we're silent when we see it happening in our families. We tell them don't come around Uncle Eric because Uncle Eric, he kind of funny like that. We see those things happening and we remain silent, and silence is complicity. So instead of removing the cancer, we allow it to fester. That's the first thing we need to start doing. Self-evaluation of our immediate environment. Like you were just saying, it starts in the home. And if we can start teaching our boys, teaching our girls at home, how to act and how to, to speak up and how to not be silent, that's a good start. But also we need to point these things out that we see, because there's a lot of times we see things and we just kind of, ain't none of my business. Ain't none of my business. And the only way we're going to get change is to make it our business. The only way we're going to get change is to make sure that we are blowing those whistles and blowing those horns. They call it snitching, but guess what? We're talking about saving the community. Snitch all you need to.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
I wanted to speak to, those comments Bernadette was making. She was hitting it right on the head, because as young kids, we didn't have a voice. We weren't allowed to say when an adult was making us feel uncomfortable, and it was considered disrespectful if, cousin such and such came around and you were staying away from them, or you wouldn't speak to them, or you didn't want to play with them. You had adults telling you, don't be disrespectful, speak, or go hug them. And not understanding that there's a message that this child is trying to say to you, but they feel like they don't have a voice and they're not going to be listened to. And so we have to, like Don the Man was saying, empower our children to be able to speak up and not take their opinion away from them, not take their voice away from them, and not teach them that children are to be seen and not heard, because that's how we were raised. And it enabled family members and predators in our family to get away with things for a long period of time, until we became adults, and then people started coming out and saying things. It's like, but the damage has been done already. We could have stopped this a long time ago if we wouldn't take the voices away from our children.
I think there's another thing that I'd love to explore, and that's the fear, or the reluctance is a better word, of some of the Black community to talk about sex and just have a honest conversation about sex. Because I agree with Bernadette, and that's why I brought it up. I'm so glad that you expounded upon it, Erica, because I wanted to. Sex is a topic that we just don't discuss, and it's interesting. I remember there was a meme, or not a meme, but a question that was going around. I think it originated on TikTok, and I was trying to find it, but I couldn't. But the question was, what did you do as a young girl that would be considered fast? And when women started to reply to this, some of the replies, I was honestly blown away. And I'm ashamed in my ignorance, but I was. I mean, it was something as simple as, hugging an uncle, or wearing certain clothes, or dancing, or whatever.
Tony, I'm doing it right now. I have on red lipstick. This right here.
Wearing red. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
These red lips.
Yeah. These things. And it feels like the rape culture is really a culture of trying to prevent young girls from enticing men. And my wife, she posted this meme the other day that said, there is nothing a little girl can do that could entice a man who is not interested in little girls, right? But yet we start at the very beginning. I remember getting off the bus, this older guy in the neighborhood, me and this young lady named Cassandra. And he asked me, how many girlfriends do you have? And I said, none. And then he chastised me because I'm supposed to have a lot of girlfriends. Now, I'm in elementary school. Well, Cassandra, hearing the conversation, wanting to be a part of it, wanting to, kind of one up me, which, that's what kids do. She says, I have 3 boyfriends. Well, he went ham. You don't need no boyfriends. You ain't got no boy. And so there's this, again, we go back to this mindset that starts very young. As a boy, I'm supposed to have a lot of girlfriends. As a girl, you're not supposed to have any boyfriends, right? And again, that just speaks to this vicious cycle that just continues. And so this is where I butt heads with the misogyny that we're seeing that's so pervasive right now, because we are reinforcing to our young men. And I'm not worried about men my age. I'm not even worried about men who are 10 years younger than me. I'm worried about men who are my son's age, who are being given this message that sexual conquest, your body count or whatever, that's something that should be worked out before you get married, as if to say, I can somehow get rid of all of my sexual desires by having sex with a bunch of women, and then at some point come to a place where now I'm okay with monogamy. That's not how that works. And again, the underlying message is, as a woman, you have to be chaste. You have to be clean. You have to be a virgin. You have to be untouched. But if, as a man, I'm supposed to go out and sow my oats, and Derek, you and I talked about this the other night on Clubhouse, who am I having sex with? It's dichotomous. It's frustrating. And the last thing I'll say before I pass the mic is, I won't go too deep into it because I'm still dealing with it in therapy, but someone pointed out, we do have to talk about the fact that this is not just a solely a woman issue. There are men who suffered from sexual assault, rape at young ages, and then now are being left to deal with it in a very pervasive way, because now their sexuality is in question. They go through depression. There's no outlet. There's no way for them to talk about it. They're chastised for even being in the place. So in the same way that women are asked, well, what did you do? What were you wearing? What indications did you give? Young boys are being put in the same situation too. And I'm not trying to steal the thunder, because this is definitely, women are definitely more vulnerable than men in these rape situations. But the idea that the rapist is this old scraggly guy in a trench coat lurking in the that's not the rapist. The rapist is the guy I've been dating for 2 years. The rapist is the uncle that I spend the night over his house with, the cousin, the family friend, the next door neighbor. These people who come into our lives and for whatever reason decide to become predators, or maybe that was their decision all along. And now we leave these young people, these minds that are not fully functional and fully developed, to deal with the trauma of this. And as someone who experienced this as a child, I'm telling you, I went through depression, suicidal ideations, all because I went through this process where I was systematically broken down. And then I remember as a young man playing the what if game. And fellas, you may remember this game. Would you do this? If what would you do if somebody put a gun to your head and told you to perform a sexual act? Which would you do? And all the guys say, "Oh man, you kill me, shoot me, kill me," all through their male bravado. None of them having been in that situation, but being the lone person that was in that situation, literally gun to my head, make a decision. I chose life. But now I'm sitting here in this very scary place wondering, did I make the wrong decision? Does this mean that I there's something in me that wanted this, that asked for this? Because obviously I should have chose death. Never considering the fact that these guys are talking out of their, they're speaking from a place that they have no standing whatsoever. But still now I'm left to deal with all of this. But who do I talk to about it? And so as a man, to contribute to it now, like Gunter Man said, how do you go from victim to victimizer? It's easy. You have no place to put the pain that was inflicted upon you. We've decided that our women, especially Black women, and this is what enrages me. We've decided that Black women, it's okay to attack them publicly, whether it be their character, their sexuality, their whatever. We've made it okay, so much so that a young Black girl can be chastised by the whole world because she chose her mental health over representing a country that still would not love her despite all she's done. And
say that again.
As Black men, we got to own this. We got to own this. We made it okay. We allowed women to call into talk shows, call into to lives and be denigrated and disrespected and desecrated on a national stage. And now we can't understand why others do the same thing. Malcolm X was right, and nothing's changed. How do we define rape culture? The rape doesn't happen in the physical sense before it happens in the emotional sense. Our little girls are being sexualized and told you can't wear this and you can't do this and you're acting fast. She is a child. All stop.
Right. And I remember as a young girl hating the idea that my body was maturing and that I was going to get attention from boys. I wanted to keep the little girl shape because I didn't want the attention. And I remember one thing that stuck out in my mind, my mom accused me of being sexually active because my hips were developing. And I was like, I have not had sex, but the fact that my body was developing into a young woman meant that I had been sexually active. And that's what made me hate the thought that I was maturing into a young woman, because I didn't want that attention. I didn't want that perception. And so even when my mom would buy me clothes that would kind of fit to my body, I wouldn't wear them. I wanted all baggy clothes because I didn't want, to be looked at that way. And so I know that our parents don't realize how they're damaging our psyche when they say those things, but that's a lot of the stuff that has to be changed. The conversations and the way that we speak to our young girls, all of that stuff has to be changed so that we don't internalize that stuff and blame ourselves when something like that happens.
It's like we're saying like rape culture is teaching the world how not to be raped instead of don't be a rapist. Let's say, hey, how about trying that on? Let's not be a rapist. Let's not be a rapist. Let's not be a rapist. No. You tell the boy to go conquer all. And yet the man, as he gets mature enough and even maybe into the Bible, he says, I want a pure woman. I want a clean woman. But what about all the women that you made unclean, impure, that you divergent? How about you asking for something that you took from someone else? And you asking for that? You asking for that? Like because culturally says, go get as much as you can. Get as much as you can. And then you're telling you want who, what God you talking to? God saw you, right? He saw you. So what are you asking for? Something that you can't give? Something that you took away from how many people? How many people? And you want what? Nah, God remembers that. I don't care how much saving you've done. Clean slate, of course, God forgives it all. If Paul could be a murderer, he could forgive the rape culture mindset. But I'm making a point. In honesty, I'm just making a point. As far as what Tony Massey said regarding some of this stuff, how do you grow out of that? Being put in that position. I remember being in that position with a woman, a girl that was older, wanted what she wanted in me. She wanted what she wanted from me. I'm sorry, even if I say no, my piggy's still gonna get hard. You touch me however you touch me, it's still going to go up. I ain't controlling that. So I was put in those positions more than once. You know, so how do you recover from that? Now, if it comes from a man to a man, that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother scarring. Then how do you deal with that growing up? Always question yourself, did I, like Tony said, did I deserve this? Like, did I want this really for myself? No, understand is that energy needs to go somewhere. It just doesn't dissipate. It's transferred from one thing to the other. So to get your question is that you have to find that energy, utilize it. And I think you already did, because look how successful you are in doing what you're doing, the way you live, your beautiful wife, that you have found some outlets. See, that's what makes you amazing, Tony Massey, is that you have become emotionally aware. You have become emotionally self-aware. So you speak from that position that allows you to take that power from old. Because when you speak, you're pulling up all that PTSD stuff, breaking up with your wife, going through with your son. You're pulling all that stuff, gun to the head now. Let's add that to the list. So when you speak, you're speaking with this well-roundedness of stuff you had to deal with, and you have found places to take that energy and transfer into things to empower them, to warn them, to direct them, to guide them, which of course for you now frees you up. It lessens the tightness of an ugly situation like that, holding you down, holding you back, stopping you from loving another person properly. So kudos to you, Tony Massey. Kudos.
That's right. So, real quick, there was a young lady on TikTok, and I found it very interesting. It's part of one of the reasons why I brought up this topic. She was an epileptic, and what happened was, with her previous boyfriend, whenever she would go into epileptic fits, she would pass out, and he would have sex with her when she was passed out. She got a new boyfriend, and this is the first time she had a seizure with him, and she woke up and she started feeling for her clothes, and he was sitting on the couch with some water and stuff waiting for her, and she said, "I still have my clothes on." He was like, "Why wouldn't you have your clothes on?" She said, "Well, my old boyfriend would have sex with me because he wanted to make sure I was okay or try to bring me back." The young man looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, babe, but that was rape." She didn't even understand what this man was doing to her was rape. Sex is consensual. If it's not consensual, it's rape, period. So I know a lot of people go, "Well, shorty in the club, she all drunk, sloshed out." It's rape. Because if she was conscious without the alcohol, 9 times out of 10, she might have said no. So when you do these things, it's rape. And real quick before I pass it on, I hope Love Tucker doesn't mind me kind of going around this subject, because she talked about it on my show when she had to protect her younger sister, her younger twin sisters. A family member gave her a choice. It's either going to be you or them. And she chose to stand for them. Like, do you understand what we're doing to our culture, to our people? Do you understand what that is? And TK said earlier that what about the deacons in the church that kiss upon people? This is the deacons and the deaconess too. Don't just not say the deacons. But that goes back to giving the child the space to say, "I feel uncomfortable." And it's no, that's just a godly kiss. Then let me grow up to understand what a godly kiss is, and you stop touching me. How about that? How about we do that? Because that's what I tell my people. If one of the kids at my church come to me and say, "Well, Tony, I feel uncomfortable around blah 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 blah," I'm going to say, "Well, let them know. You want to go? You want me to go with you? Do not approach. Do not shake. Praise the Lord and keep it moving. If they feel uncomfortable for you, you can't just automatically say to them, 'Oh, this is what I meant.' No, this is what they feel. Let's deal with what they feel first, and then we can get to what you meant. Stop excusing your behavior because you think it's okay. No, we can't do that. We have to understand people have the right to how they feel, and we should move accordingly. I'm gonna land it right there.
Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I'm. Wow. Another slight point that I want to make before we get to the end of the show, and we probably gonna have to do some kind of offshoot or a part 2 or something to this, for sure. So here's the thing, right? This is where my mind goes because I'm always trying to peel back the layers of the onion all the time. I'm going to talk about boys because I don't have the experience as a girl or a woman, but I'm going to talk about boys specifically. So I don't want to say that it doesn't happen the other way. But when we grow up in the vein of what Tony Massey was talking about, having how many girlfriends do you have and all of this. And when you then show the achievement of having all of the girlfriends, you get a pat on the back. What we don't realize is happening over time is that we're building a trigger for our reward center in our brain, right? So every time I do the thing, it's going to make me feel good. Even when there's no one there to pat me on the back, it's almost kind of like a virtual pat. Like, okay, I did it. Because this is what I got cheered on for growing up. And what it also becomes is a coping mechanism because we are also raised to be emotionally muted. So when I have a problem, I got to go to what I know for a fact is going to make me feel better. That also lends itself to our ego. So when I'm out on the street, if I'm having a bad day, let me go grab up a chicken, and that's going. I'm a feel better because I'm not emotionally intelligent enough. I haven't talked to anybody to even release whatever I'm going through. So let me just go ahead and hurry up and find. Matter of fact, this is how you know for a fact that this is how we're socialized. Whenever we are hurt, coming out of a relationship, or even a lot of times while we're in it, the first thing we go to, let me go sleep with somebody. That's going to make me feel better. Let me go to the club, bro. I know I just broke up yesterday. Let me go to the club and see how many I can pull because I'm going to feel better. The emotional intelligence is at an all-time low. You don't even care about healing at this point. The only thing that you're trained to do is to go out there and hunt and find something so I could feel better. Because when I was 5, I was told that this is what I'm supposed to do. And you'll have a grown man that's 40 still doing it. Because every time, even though that moment of pleasure or that moment of I conquered was small, at least I got a hit. I got a little hit. I need to get another little hit because I don't know how to resolve this stuff. And I'm not saying this to normalize it. I'm saying everything comes from a place, and we have to start changing. To everybody's point that was in the comments and even up here, we talked about how we have to start raising our kids and our grandkids to move differently, or that conditioning lasts a lifetime for a lot of people. Y'all know the moment they be like, the only way to get over one is to get under somebody else. So now your toxic ass is going to go find somebody to destroy. And then the cycle continues. So I just wanted to make that point. A lot of us who, Gen Xers, we didn't know any other way. Because everybody, that whole thing, everybody was doing it. We literally saw everybody doing it. So we kind of fell into it. But we now have the opportunity to, as the point of this show and everybody on here that has a platform, we got to do better by starting with ourselves first and being able to have these conversations and touch more people so that we don't have to have another generation. Like my daughter's 12, another generation coming through, and we know what it looks like. We know what the beginning looks like, and we've seen the end. And it's nothing pretty in between. We have the opportunity now to affect some change to Tony Watt's point, it's about the community. We have to start changing it. And so I'm gonna land there. But yeah, it's this is, like I say, you see these men, you see these women who can't be alone, and I can't be by myself. Like it's ingrained. The attachments and all of that stuff. It's a big picture, but like I said, we have to start with ourselves. We gotta socialize with each other and change the way we socialize in order for it to grow exponentially and stop worrying about me. We got to start worrying about the community, or it's all bad. So I'm gonna land there.
You know, none of us talked about cell phones. How does a little boy concentrate with a pocket full of titties in his pocket? Let's think about it. Like growing up for me, I didn't have no cell phone. I had a beeper. You know, the sexy thing was writing the word boobs, getting it on a beep. Come on now, Gator, did I just tell you a story? Come on. But that's it. What do you do with rape culture when every single kid, you talked about your 12, 14-year-old kid, now all the pornography that he wants, curious about anything, is right on the device. That's why I call it the pocket full of titties. Like, how do you concentrate? Like, I will never pay attention in school if I was that kid. But now, so how do you talk about, so you shouldn't do this for sex? You don't see it this way when every video you have access to. Remember, unlike how, if we're all around the age anywhere from 35 and up, you grew up in a culture where your home, your household raised you, and then your neighborhood raised you. Because that's even like how when you talk about accents, you know, you think it's your home that shapes your accent. It's your home initially, but it's just your surroundings. It's your neighborhood that shapes your accent. How you have a little twang or whatever, or the New York, yeah, hey, how you doing? All that comes with your surroundings. So that's what it is. So how do you go from that time to now YouTube raising your child, where now it's every community and their opinions and their thoughts and their ways of being and their habits, mostly bad, because that's what sells, mostly the negative stuff. How do you now go from how do you train up those kids? It's no longer your neighborhood that's shaping your kids. It's global. It's global. You're knowing what's going on in Thailand, what's happening in Russia, what's happening down in. Come on, you're learning all that stuff. So how do you train that? How do you shape that? How do you control that?
Yeah, I would like to jump in and answer this question. I have two young adults. I have a young woman who is 24 years old. I have a son who is 22 years old. And they came around when cell phones, you know, at first they were doing the 143, I love you. And then they had Instagram. I wasn't on Instagram when it first came out, but they were. But so was I, because I knew your passcodes. Your phone would come in at a certain time. At that certain time, I was looking at history. I was looking at you didn't have nothing. Oh, so you deleting stuff now. Don't delete nothing on my phone that I pay for. So me and my ex-husband, you probably would think, oh, you're helicopter parents. But if we go back a little bit when R. Kelly and all this situation happened, people were asking the parents, what were y'all doing? What were y'all thinking, putting your kids in this situation? Well, to answer your question, Gutterman, how can we do this is parents, I'm going back. I ain't your friend. I'm your mama. And I'm going to make sure that these are the controls. Okay, you don't want to get off the phone at a certain time? You can't use this phone. And parents, we have got so lax, like you said, letting YouTube raise our kids. When I got divorced, my brother told me one thing. He said, Deborah, anything you want to know is on YouTube. I'm thinking YouTube was just music, people singing and dancing. Your girl found out how to get something, a tag off from clothes that they forgot to take the cat tag off. I said, what? I said, this crazy. So to answer that question is us as parents, we got to step up. We can't let these devices, these apps and all that. We need to get in each other's, in our kids' space, a door. Don't close my door. This door about to come off the hinges. What you mean? A door? Privacy? There is privacy, but this is my house. This is my phone. This our stuff until you can get to your place. Because if we didn't tell them, and we used to always tell our kids, the final point here is that, you know, we're going to tell y'all the real. Your friends are going to tell you what they think, how they feel. They ain't had sex. They just telling you what they saw. They ain't did nothing like that. We was telling them about STDs. We're telling them about pregnancy. We're telling them how it's going to feel if you get an STD. Because it's one thing to say, okay, don't do this, because this gonna happen. But when you get deep with it and be real with your kids and not their friends thinking about, oh, they're not gonna like me. I don't care. I'm gotta protect you. My job is to be your parent first, and then, you know, at a certain time we can maybe have a glass of wine. But until then, I'm your parent first. And even with the whole community, you know, I used to get whoopings by other people, mama. Now, if you tell somebody, if these teachers, I have a friend that's a teacher, she's been teaching almost 30 years. She said these parents come up here like their kids ain't never did nothing. I would come up there, oh, CJ did something. Tell me what happened. Because we have to be allies with other parents, because our kids aren't as perfect as we think they are. All their highlights on Instagram, you ain't seen the stuff that my kids did that's not postable. So parents, jump in. Don't let these devices, these apps control your kids, and have open dialogue communication with your kids so that way they can feel comfortable to tell you anything. My kids are young adults. They don't want to cuss around me because that was implanted early. They might say, Mom, I got to tell you a story, but I got to say some cuss words. Okay, go ahead. Let me hear it. Lay it on me. But you got to do that as parents. We got to step up, because I don't want nobody to come back and say, what? Who raised him? He don't open the door for me. Who raised her? She just doing. No, because they're going to be looking at me, and I'm not going to be the one. So parents, jump in there. Don't be afraid to get in your kids' space. They're going to appreciate it in the long run. You're going to protect them from a lot of things that they don't have to go down these different roads to be able to have to navigate through. So just let your kids know. Your friends, they don't know nothing. Y'all all learning. Y'all all trying to figure it all out.
I am so happy that you guys went to that subject, because it popped in my head. But because, you know, we're climbing down to log off time, I didn't want to get into it. But we have to be aware, right? And we have to take this liberal approach off of what our kids are watching, right? Oh, it's our kids. We can let them do what they want to. Little boys are scrolling through Instagram, looking at Instagram damn near nude models all day. So here I am, and Rick, we had this when we were young. Oh my God! Like, do you understand? Like, what I would really like somebody to do is go look at how dangerous porn is, what porn does to you, how it desensitizes you completely. Right? And we're allowing these kids to look at sexual images that they have no idea what they're looking at. They don't understand. They just know how their body reacts to what they see. They don't know the depth of what they're dealing with. They're becoming desensitized that is a human being that they're looking at. The woman now becomes, sometimes she's got a beautiful face, but most times, I'm sorry, let's go here. Most pictures that you see with women right now, what are they showing? Their behinds. They got their butts turned around so you can see their behinds. What am I attracted to now? I haven't heard you speak. What am I attracted to? What's pulling this young man in? Then he has this other music that's telling them that women aren't anything. Then he has this completely other platform and atmosphere that's saying, if you don't do this, you're a simp, and you're that, and women should be subjugated to what you want. If I know parents have backed out a long time ago, I am encouraging you to get back in the game, because that's where we're losing at. There's an old saying, I think it was an old Indian saying, a skilled warrior can kill somebody with a bow, right? But no, a warrior can kill somebody with a bow, but a skilled warrior will kill the children from the womb. And that's what's going on in our community. That's what's going on in our community, because we're giving them agency of things that their brains can't even wrap around yet. The latest brain statistics or research, your brain doesn't fully develop between 22 and 26. So we're asking 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 years old to make these complicated decisions in a world that is basically peer pressure to do something. So we have to get back involved. And that's why my whole passion about getting the village back involved is very important. And like I said, I will call you out on doing something that's inappropriate. I'm going to call you out. I call my friends out. Dude, don't do that. She don't deserve that. Now, if you and her have an arrangement that this is what y'all doing, then okay, fine. But if you telling me I love her, that's going to be my wife, and I see you acting out, no, dude, I can't let you do that. I can't. We have to balance these things. We have to understand. And young men need to know, right? It's better to tell a woman the truth of what you're looking for and what you want than to rack up all of these things by lying to them. Because there is a, and this is a little bit off topic, because there's a mental thing that you're now doing to this woman who might have a daddy issues and issues at home. Now she's chasing all these men to give her something that she can't get because you lied to her. Oh, I love you so I can get something. Oh, I did this so I can do this, right? There's the ripples that my God, the ripples that we're putting on people are so wide and vast. If we sat down and put the strings together of all our social ills, we'll find out, and I don't care who gets mad at me, it's a man's fault. You hear me? It's a man's fault. We did it. So we're here to clean it up. That's why the Real Sharp Talk is here. We're going to clean it up. Thank you.
Absolutely. So glad you said that. You know, Erica, you said something earlier, and I was trying not to forget it, and I think I did. I hate that I did that. But yeah, there needs to be some ownership when it comes to men. First and foremost, it's the idea that you know, as men, we keep touting ourselves as leaders, right? We're the head of the house, we're the leaders, we're the chiefs, the whole nine. But yet we've put women in a position where they have to choose between their own safety, mentally, emotionally, and physically, and exposing a black man to the criminal justice system. I got into a conversation, and we are not talking about child support, so I don't want to get into a conversation about child support. But when it comes to, you know, turning someone in, whether it be because of a crime, because they're back on their child support, whatever, we as men have put black women in a position where they now have to protect us from a system that we are volunteering to be a part of. So I'm just going to leave that there. The comment of the night, for me, we've never done this before, but this was so triggering for me that I want to bring this up. To Sure Talks, the porn through the squiggly lines. You don't know my life, and I really don't appreciate you bringing that, you know, putting my business in the street in the way that you did. You know, that was cold-blooded. We at the hour and a half mark, so we're definitely over time. I think a part 2 is definitely needed. And I expected this to be exactly what this became, because this is a conversation that I think needs to be had over and over again. We didn't even get to how does it affect our community, because we were still trying to figure out and define rape culture. And you know, I can't remember who the justice was that said, you know, I can't define pornography, but I'll know it when I see it. I think rape culture is the same thing. We can sit here and wax poetic about it and all this good stuff, but then what it's up doing is it branches off into these different areas. And that means that it's so pervasive in our culture that we can't, quantify it in one spot because it exists on so many levels and in so many areas and so many nooks and crannies. But at the end of the day, I think Tony Watts said it best. As men, if you want to be the leader that you proclaim to be, then you have to own that part. That's what accountability is all about. But as long as we continue to blame Black women for our problems, blame women for our problems, that is not leadership, especially when a woman can't pump her gas without being accosted, and no is no longer an adequate response. That's not a woman issue. And as men, we should be the first ones to step in without fear to say, bruh, she said no, but it was brought up. I mean, now we're not dealing with someone who's going to argue with us. We're dealing with somebody who's going to shoot us. And now, so it's so nuanced. But I want to make sure that all of our guests get recognized for all of your contribution tonight. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. You added so much value to the show. We definitely got to do a part 2. So I'm going to ask that all of our guests take themselves off mute and say on the record that they will come back to do a part 2. So we have that on the record. Go ahead and do that now.
I will definitely be back.
The doors of the church are now open. All right. So one at a time, I'm going to give our guests an opportunity to let you know where you can find them. Please follow these, all of these amazing people. Their platforms are incredible. What you saw tonight is just a sample of what they bring to you. And doing this kind of stuff, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of emotional energy. So at the least you can do is hit subscribe and follow these people. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Erica. Let me go ahead and bring you to the main stage, and you tell us where we can find you and how we can catch everything that you're doing.
Follow us on Instagram. It is dopediscussions_pod, and go to our YouTube channel. Just type in Dope Discussions with Erica podcast and go ahead and hit that subscribe and that notification bell so you won't miss us every Sunday, 6:30 Central Standard Time, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you so much. And then, of course, because we have so much respect and admiration for the ladies, Gator, I know you're not going to mind if Queen Cole goes next. I know, bro. I know. I just want to make sure that, everything is everything. So Queen Cole, please tell us where we can find everything that you're doing and follow you.
Yes, before I even say that, I just have to say, I applaud you guys for just stepping up, being kings, and just leading these conversations. So first of all, thank you for having me on. And everyone can follow me at One Queen Cole on all social media platforms, and then also at Light the Path podcast.
Awesome. And then, of course, the man, the myth, the voice, Mr. Gator, go ahead and let us know where we can find you and how we can get more of the Gator Live. They see he's so excited he muted. He don't know he muted.
Look, I just muted. I was just excited. That's right. That's right. First of all, I just want to thank y'all for inviting us on. I appreciate it. And to follow up the two lovely ladies that just were on stage, you can find me, Gator Live _down5, or just follow Erica on Dope Discussions _pod. I'll see it too. We do this thing together. What I'm saying? We tag team back again.
Awesome. And since we have a no one man's over the crew concept here on Real Shop Talk, we're just going to start with Derek and go around the room. And everybody gonna have to be on the screen when you do it. That's just how we do it. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, this show, man. Woo. And I think just a comment first. I think we're stepping into territory where a lot of people are afraid to go. But I think that's why this works, is because it's uncomfortable. But we have to push through these things because it's imperative for not just ourselves, but our community. We got to care about the community or everything crumbles. So You can find me at relationshipgumbo.info. Everything kind of funnels through there, Instagram, YouTube, and all of that stuff. And check me out on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Follow me, and that YouTube will pop up. Subscribe to the YouTube. I got a good show coming. And y'all might want to, I'm gonna push the hell out of it, but it's going to be good. I'm going to tell y'all about it tomorrow. So I'm going to pass the mic over to, I don't know who goes next, Tony Massey, or
we'll pass it over.
I'm not even going to point.
We'll send it over to John. And John, listen, that both you and Derek know, I downloaded the relationship podcast, and the Help Myself podcast, and that's what I listened to on the plane on my way here. So it was amazing. Go ahead, John.
Appreciate you, brother. Hey, all our guests are amazing. Everybody was amazing. We definitely got to do a part 2. Thank y'all so much for being a part of what we do and allowing us to be a part of what you all do. Hey, realshoptalk.net. Support one, support all. We out.
That's what's up. And then, of course, the wise one himself, Mr. Tony Watts.
So I'm gonna do a little something different. Like the young man said, John just said, realshoptalk.net. You'll find all of us there. You want to follow me on Instagram? It's right there under the screen. I am Tony A. Watts. But I want to tell a story real quick before we pull out. I was told something early this year. Young lady went to a party with a friend, and her friend was a virgin. She got a date rape drug. She's looking for a friend all through the night, and she happened to find her friend underneath this guy, and she made a scene about it. The guy then pulled out a gun and said somebody's trying to rob him, and someone stole his wallet, so everything got confused. But this woman had to go home to her Jamaican parents and tell her that she had lost her virginity at a party, and she has no idea, no recollection of what happened. This is a recycling thing. What Rick talked about Freaknik and all of those things, this is not something new. This is a recycling thing. And until parents and guardians and the leaders of the community show up loudly and proudly and starts putting our foot down. And this is one thing I tell a lot of people. If you're not ready to die for something, then go sit in the corner and let the ones that want to do it. All right? Appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Come see us next week when the discussion will be about, Tony, I hope I'm not taking this away from you, will be about gender wars. Where did it start? And why are Black women and Black men so at odds with each other? So come check us out next Monday. This is going to be a banger.
And of course, the spark, the energy, the electricity, the Gunter man himself. Go ahead and let us know where we can find you, brother.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up? Yeah, man. Today was heavy. Today was real heavy. But I like, there's way too many angles and avenues that you can travel down. As you heard, there's what, 8 of us here that all had unique perspectives, different takes that it hit differently for us all. So imagine what it is when you meet someone. When you meet someone for the first time and you have all your opinions of what you think is right or wrong, what's good or bad. When you meet someone, lend yourself to the opportunity and the understanding that inside that person has information that you have never even thought of. So treasure it. Treasure it as an opportunity to be able to shape your mind, to shape your ways of being, to be even better than who you are. Because I believe that God puts people in your presence for 2 reasons: to either show you what to do or what not to do. What they show you, believe what they show you. Not so much they tell you, believe what they show you. And when they show it to you, trust that is their truth. And it's no way of you being good enough, sweet enough, nice enough, kind enough, giving enough, doing enough to make them line up to the things that you would like them to be for you. So that's my thoughts. I am Gunter Man from Soapbox Stand Up and Speak. My show is every Thursday night at Soapbox Stand Up and Speak on Instagram Live, The Gunter Man Show. But this is me, the real shop talk. This is a part of me. I stand united with these guys right here, us five. And then any guest that comes, you're part of the family too. Love you, appreciate you, and thank you for being this daring with your personal business.
And of course, I would be remiss if I did not say thank you to our most important person on the show, and that is you, the guests. Your comments are everything. You add so much to the conversation, and we appreciate you so much for joining us every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. The realshoptalk.net. You go there, you can find past episodes. You can find this episode if you joined us late and you want to start back over at the beginning. By all means, go and do that. Subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss anything. And not only that, subscribing to the channel is not just about you. If you saw value in this, subscribing to the channel lets the algorithm know that this is some good stuff that needs to be out there. We're constantly complaining about media. We have opportunities to change media. And I'm not saying that this is the only show. Dope Discussions is another show. There's a lot of shows out there that bring positivity to the airwaves, so we can mute the vitriol that's out there, especially when it comes to our culture, by just supporting voices that we enjoy hearing. So join us next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're gonna dive into the battle of the sexes, the gender wars. It's gonna be something, but it's not gonna be anything unless you're there. So on behalf of the Real Shop Talk and all of our amazing guests, thank you so much for joining us. We out.
Yeah, the Real Shop Talk. Just come and take a listen. Some grown men with unbiased and honest opinions, and with no agendas, so you just gotta check it. Talking love and life from a male perspective. We keep it authentic, real, no filter. Leave a comment, be part of the show. We here to give you 5 gentlemen's views about manhood, no doubt. This the show you've been needing, yeah, it's the Real Shop Talk. Let's go.